Today on Doomed! He went to a Ben Shapiro event. He challenged Ben Shapiro to a live debate. He owned, and then he was silenced. I guess facts did care about Ben Shapiro's feelings that night. Joining me on the show today, you might have seen this viral video, over 3 million views on just one video, a version of the video, I should say, on Twitter that I've seen. I have with me today the person who challenged Ben Shapiro and, really gave Ben Shapiro a showing. Ben Shapiro really, I thought, didn't have much of a good showing when he got to that mic and had to debate. Let's pull him right up right now. Also, let me put me up on the screen. Where are we? Here we are. Oh, too soon for that. Here we are. Joining me on this episode of Doomed, Ben Schneider. He's a recent graduate of Iowa State University. And he went viral this past week. How you doing, Ben? How does it feel to have your little tiff with Ben Shapiro go viral so quickly? It was posted on like a Friday, I noticed, and before I knew it, it was like all over the internet.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty funny because I didn't know people were taping. And I was really just hoping to reach the people in the room. So it was a little funny to see it on Twitter when I got home.
Yeah, I remember when you reached out to me. I think it was like Thursday night last week, and you said, "Hey, I got back from this event, and I got on the mic with Ben Shapiro, and you had recorded it yourself because you were unaware that they were recording, I guess, right? And you recorded your own version and you had sent it to me, and I just couldn't like you sent me the transcript too, and I'm reading the transcript and I'm like, oh my God, this sounds like it's gold. But your version of the audio, I just couldn't make anything out. So I was like, damn, what do I do with this? Like, it's just the transcript, really. No one can really hear the audio. And then I went to bed, and the next morning I see you sent me, you found you're like, oh, I found the video of this. But it had already a version of it had already gone viral on Twitter.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because I was hoping to get interviews with people who were there because I really enjoy sort of independent fact finding. And they had these big lines. I thought maybe there would be like a couple hundred people there, but there were well over 3,000. And you had multiple lines stretching out all the way around the block. And they had people walking down the lines confiscating backpacks. So I had to just keep the memory of the interviews in my head.
So what was this event? So you're a recent graduate from the school where this happened, right? It was I said it earlier, I think, at Iowa State University. The event was Young America's Foundation. And
Yeah.
what was Ben? Were you there for the entire? Because Ben Shapiro obviously did a speech beforehand, and then I guess he took questions from the crowd like he usually does. And you're one of those questions. But did you listen to the speech prior to the question and answer portion?
Yeah. Yeah, I
What
did
was he
listen
talking
to
about?
it. And they didn't really have much advertising. I didn't get the name of the lecture until a couple hours before it played. They sent out an email to everybody who was thinking of attending, and it said, wokeness is destroying America, therefore wokeness must be destroyed. And then they had a little blurb about how they're being censored and canceled, and how you need to show up and show your support. And they also sort of clarified, it was really confusing, they sent out tickets to the event, but then so many people showed up, they decided they weren't even going to honor them. And what I ended up doing was walking around pretending I was confused, and I kept asking to speak to ushers until I was inside, and then I just walked to a seat.
No. So you didn't have a ticket?
Well, they weren't taking them, and I had sent my book bag away because they wouldn't let me bring the audio recording device in, and I'd left my student ID in my book bag. So I actually couldn't find a way to enter. So I just pretended like I was an idiot and walked in.
Well, very clever. You extra points for me, honestly, from getting in on this. That's added to the story, to be quite honest to me. So, what was Ben Shapiro talking about before he started taking questions?
So I was very surprised at how short his lecture was. I went and asked people beforehand who were fans of the program, obviously, what they expected. And they said, well, it's going to be an academic talk. You're really going to enjoy it, even if you're on the left, because he presents things in a very academic way. Which I'm not really sure why they were telling me that, because it was a bunch of garbage. It was mostly characterizing the left as purely race reductionist, as well as sort of anti-trans bigotry. That was that was about all that happened at that lecture, and I was taken off guard actually when I went. I was hoping it would be a little bit fun, but it was pretty miserable sitting in the audience. By the time I got up to speak, I was so uh, mad that I was actually feeling a little bit nauseated, which made it really difficult to concentrate.
Now, before you went up, was there anyone else who spoke, or were you the first to ask him any questions?
So there were two other people that spoke. Um, they have a few general, or I guess the way they had this event set up, I don't know if they're all like this, but they had a couple general seats upstairs. Um, since I didn't have my student ID, they had a second check once you got in, and they had 500 reserved seats in front that were for students who were verified with their ID. So I was kicking myself again for forgetting my ID, but I went and took a seat up in the nosebleeds. The I guess event center holds about 2,600 people. And then when the lecture was coming to a close, I figured they would start forming a line for questions. So I went downstairs and used the bathroom and then just followed somebody else in. And then I snuck around back until I got into the question line.
Ah,
Um,
so another way you used sneakiness, I guess.
yeah, I was being very,
You snuck
very
in.
sneaky.
You snuck into the
I'm
Q and A line. I mean, wow! I'm loving it more and more at each and every turn.
So I think I'd actually recommend too for other people who are interested in doing this. There was a lot more security and sort of ticket checking than I expected, and they were definitely trying to separate off the students at multiple levels so that Ben Shapiro wouldn't have to speak to any adults. Um, and then once he'd organized the line, he had a member of the YAF sort of walk down the line and ask if anybody was in the mood to argue with Ben Shapiro, if anybody was on the left. And they moved those students to the very front of the line. And I was one of three students, the last, who wanted to challenge Ben Shapiro on some of his reactionary comments.
So what were the other what were the questions the other Q&A line standers, I guess, when they got up to the mic? What were their interactions with Ben?
So the first younger man was interested in asking about some nitpicking in language between the Bible and the Torah. I really didn't understand what the question even was getting at. And the second student asked a question, I think that was meant to be a little bit of a rhetoric trap for transgender rights. And he just kind of stood there with his arms behind his back and then left immediately after asking the question. So
So
I
these
think I
were
was the first student to actually try and challenge him a little bit more.
all even the people who went on line to talk with him. These were all clearly Ben Shapiro fans.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Um, there, I was surprised by how many women there were at the lecture because I expected almost all men. And I would say maybe like 8% of the students were women who were in the stands.
Eight
And there
percent, you
were,
said? Wait, hold on. 8%?
yeah, I was surprised. It was a lot more than I thought would show up.
That's amazing. I mean, I agree with you that that's probably more than I thought, but also quite funny that like, wow, there was more women I thought there would be. 8%. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess it expect to be more like 98% to 2%, but 8%.
Yeah.
Wow, Ben Shapiro is really widening the demographic.
Yeah, I think so. Um, and there were maybe the stands were completely full because they had turned away a couple hundred people at the actual door and locked them early. And I think there were a few spare seats because there were some
Wait, lock the door
students.
from the inside?
Yeah,
Once
well, to
Ben
lock
Shapiro
other students
starts,
from coming
you
in,
can't
and
get
they had
out. You're stuck in
the whole thing
here.
was a little bizarre. They had police basically patrolling all the hallways on all the floors. I think I counted six or seven while I was there.
So they were expecting perhaps something going on, but also
Yeah.
interesting, I guess that well, we could talk about that in just 1 second. I want to. We're obviously going to talk quite a lot about your moment there on the mic, but I wanted to ask one more thing. What was the reaction to the Ben Shapiro speech? Just going back a little bit to his opening, his monologue, I guess you can call it. You had mentioned it was, you had said the focus was on like trans rights.
That's what I thought it was going to be because of the way that Ben Shapiro sort of socially postures online. But the majority of it was actually, I think the way that I would characterize it personally is it was an expression of racial resentment, sort of
Hmm.
a reactionary stance to the BLM uprising. I think the way maybe a fan of Ben Shapiro might characterize it is, um, I guess, rebuffing the cultural absurdities of the left. It depends on who you ask, but the types of things they were talking about were extremely niche, references that nobody would really understand unless they were kind of a hardcore right wing fan. And they were also seeking to sort of redefine on their own terms what it means to be woke, what it means to be anti racist, what it means to, I guess, engage in a society with diverse thought, if that
You know
makes
that
sense.
that is really interesting because I mean, obviously today, May 3rd, it's the day after the that leak from the Supreme Court that showed
Hmm.
last night that showed that as of now, it seems like uh, the conservative justices in the Supreme Court are going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Um, it's not set in stone, obviously, and the leaker, we don't know who the leaker is. We don't know if the leaker was one of the clerks for the liberal justices or one of the clerks for the conservative justices. If it was one of the Supreme Court justices themselves or someone in their circle who doesn't work for them, it could have been. Who knows? I mean, we have a Supreme Court justice out there whose wife was there at the Capitol building on January 6th. So I
Yeah.
mean, who knows at this point? So we don't know the reasoning for the leak, what they hope to accomplish via this leak, but we do know abortion rights, pro-choice rights in this country it could be going the wayside in terms of federal law, which is not
Hmm.
good. And then we know that there was the recent, and I should say this: your interaction with Ben Shapiro was late last week, but this is a major issue for them. This isn't like something that just rose out in the past 2 days. And then we've had the recent push against trans people, and we've had this whole LGBT teachers are all groomers push. There's been all in the mainstream. Well, the right wing has been pushing this, attempting to get it into the mainstream, attacking LGBTQ people. And then we have what I just mentioned before with Supreme Court. And then still though, their focus when it's just an average every day for Ben Shapiro, you're saying his whole speech was focused on this sort of racial resentment and racial justice, and just race issues.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's
And
just, that
I,
really like drives home what's the overall goal here, right? I mean,
mhm.
obviously, all these issues are very important. But I was reading earlier today about the history of Roe v. Wade, and how actually, like, after it was passed in the 70s, after the decision in the 70s, and abortion rights became law of the land, evangelicals and other religious right didn't really focus on it. Like, they sort of just took the L and moved on temporarily, and it wasn't until after desegregation of schools did they hop back on this as sort of a way, like a rallying cry. But their whole thing this whole time has been this racial resentment. And it's just like, interesting to hear you also tell me that, like, admit all these different issues that have been on the forefront of what they've been saying online and in speeches and stuff. When it's just them in a room, they're back on the race issues. That's their focus.
I thought what was really interesting about it was the contrast between what I got from listening to his programs and his actual sort of public communications versus what I heard when I got there. So my PhD's in biology, but medical biology. The word for it is biomedical sciences. So I thought, okay, this is a great opportunity to talk to him about genetic conditions like Swyer syndrome or Klinefelter's, and sort of introduce new concepts to the audience, and hopefully reach some of these young students who are going down this reactionary pathway. But then towards the end of his, I guess, lecture, if that's what you want to call it, I had been taking notes, and I realized so much of it was about rebuffing affirmative action, was about rebuffing the idea of systemic racism, was about rebuffing the idea that we could adjust schools and society to be more equal across different groups that have been, there's been historical discrimination between. That was the primary focus of the lecture through and through.
It's not surprising that like, I'm not surprised that they would talk about this, but I just think it's interesting that, amid a whole plethora of other topics that have been on the forefront of what the right wing is presenting online, at least in the online discourse. They, you think it would be, and you even thought that, you said it yourself to me, that you went in thinking this would be a speech about, taking advantage of the recent anti-LGBTQ, especially the T in LGBTQ, push that's going on, and that wasn't it. Now let's get to your moment now. Now, I was thinking, I have the video. I was thinking we should watch the video together. I'll pause it throughout and get your thoughts, and then we could do a larger discussion afterwards. But I think it'd be interesting to watch this with you. And for people who haven't seen it yet, if you're watching on the live stream or on the YouTube replay or on Twitch, or if you are listening to the audio podcast, I will, I'll pause it and let you know if there's anything visually you're missing. But I'll stop it, and I want to get some of your thoughts on what was going through your head and what the reaction from the audience was. And how's that sound?
I think that sounds great. Anything I can do to help your audience sort of learn from what I learned about how to de-radicalize people through these sort of, I wouldn't call it a debate, actually, weirdly enough, because I don't think there's any debating a person like Ben Shapiro. He's happy to just make things up if he's cornered, and he can always have you sort of removed from the premises. And he plays this game of Bally in the Moat, which is just, he suggests something absurd, and then when you try to counter it, he sort of retreats and pretends like his position's actually more reasonable. So right. I don't know how you actually have a debate with somebody like that. I think it's more of a chance to talk to his audience and try to reach them, try to show them that he's a fraud who's primarily just straw manning.
Yeah, what was interesting to me was, like, listen, it obviously is his event. And if you walk up and you ask a question and he answers it, he can cut you off and say that was enough. That's the one question or whatever. But the thing to me was, he never answers your question. Like, his whole thing is he's debate master. You bring him something to at least, give you one back and forth that's in good faith if you're such a debate master. But in my opinion, and I think everyone else watching will agree, he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that at all.
No, it doesn't.
So
Which
let's
is,
go ahead.
I think, great because the last part of his speech was about how nobody on the left wants to have a rational discussion.
Right. I mean, you gave him the chance as the, and as the host, I understand he wants to move to more people, talk to other people, but as someone who portrays himself as the debate master, the master debater, he could have at the very least handled that one back and forth and then said, "All right, I did that, move on." But he doesn't. Let's watch. Let me pull up the video here. Let me bring it to the moment you come on screen. It's at... All right, there you are. Let's do this.
Why is this microphone so low? That's weird as hell. Hey, so my name's Ben. I'm also a Jew. I hate public speaking.
Well, it's the two of us against the world here in Iowa. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You should go.
I mean, right there, I don't know if you planned that, but I thought that was very, very well done in terms of catching him off guard, maybe. I don't know if he was expecting a fellow Jew to come at him as hard as you did.
Thank you. I was trying to tone down the crowd a little bit away from the hyped up energy that had sort of been previously displayed.
Right, and it's a good back and forth to have. Honestly, I think that's anyone watching, you want to bring their guard down and let them feel safe. Ben thought he was with his people, but then let's continue.
Oh, your hair. I mean, Jewish people have beautiful hair, man. You should show it off. No, but I'm not here to talk about something that's very funny. I kind of have I don't know much about you, so I have a series of back and forth questions, if that's okay, just before I ask my question. So do you come from Holocaust survivors, or are you a Jewish family that didn't?
So my great-great-grandparents arrived here. A lot of our extended family was killed in the Holocaust, but our immediate
Your
family
great-great-grandparents, but not your grandparents.
Right.
Oh, do you have friends whose grandparents were Holocaust survivors or anything like that?
Of course, many of them. Yeah, I've helped write memoirs of Holocaust survivors.
Yeah. Their families are kind of messed up, right? My family is very messed up.
I mean, if you go through a trauma like the Holocaust, I would imagine
they teach that trauma between generations. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, trauma very often in a lot of circumstances is passed down. I mean, I know some kids of Holocaust survivors who are now family.
I just want to say, when I was reading your transcript when you said it to me, I immediately saw where you were going with this, and he was just giving it all to you, and I thought this was fantastic. And I was surprised when I saw the viral clip. It actually starts after this moment. And
Yeah.
I think this moment is so important. To me, this moment sets it all up. I really think this was really well done. And he took it all and gave you everything you needed to I mean, this is to me, debate is over right after this. There's no way he's coming back from this. This was fantastic, I thought.
Fantastic, and some who didn't. I mean, that's
Yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
you are officially woke. That is what wokeness is about. It's like, people's grandparents or their great-grandparents were slaves.
Well, it's okay. No, it's okay. Guys,
Fuck you, I'm
talking. Guys, I actually want to hear. I want to hear.
No, this
It's
guy-
okay. It's okay.
I
I want
promise he wants to
to
hear
hear.
me.
Let's at least hear the argument. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Go.
What? He wants to hear me.
I do want to hear it. It's fine. Let him
He
go.
wants to hear
Let's hear it.
Come on. I'll just,
So
I'm talking.
explain
Come
how
on.
that's woke.
So I'm guessing you had the people working the event trying to get you off, because it seemed like you were talking to someone in specific there.
Yeah, so there were 3 people standing behind me, and a police officer, and another 2 outside the back door, and they were definitely motioning that I should leave. And there was a woman there who I think was representing Shapiro's camp, and she was sort of telling me the whole time, one question: you gotta go, you're done, you're leaving now. And it was just kind of a constant chime in the ear, which makes it really difficult to talk.
Right. I mean, I really thought this was really great. I mean, let's keep listening, but I mean, I think people will see where this ends up going. Shapiro, well, let Shapiro speak for himself before I speak for him.
So, I mean, the whole thing is like, oh, let's see. So during Silent Calvin Coolidge's administration, do you know about like the Great Mississippi Flood back in the 1930s?
I understand that American history is filled with racial evil.
Yeah. And that causes some intergenerational trauma, which affects people's ability to be,
so let me
effective, and things like that.
Fine. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So if the idea is that history has consequences, of course that's true. That's not wokeness.
Yeah.
That is not wokeness. What wokeness suggests is that fundamental institutions in American
No,
society
it doesn't.
Yes, it 100% does.
I ran Elizabeth Warren's campaign. I helped organize her volunteers around here. I am a representative of wokeness.
Okay, well,
and that's just, this is all it is.
Well, I mean,
when I went to go get my first tattoo, the guy had lightning bolts and 88s tattooed on his neck. And as a Jewish person, that's really messed up. It's basically a threat.
There are racist people who exist. The argument that you're making, and I'm going to close with this because this is going in weird directions, and I don't really want to.
No, it's not
I
going
don't
in a weird
really want
direction.
to get. Just hold up a second. I let you get out your arguments, and now it's time for me to respond because I let you say the full argument.
Okay, I'll let you respond, but
No, not but. Now's my turn.
You are not characterizing what I'm saying accurately.
Now it's my turn. Your definition is inaccurate. The reason your definition is inaccurate is because any sentient human being would acknowledge that history has consequences.
Right.
But if the idea is, but that's not what wokeism is. Wokeism is a different thing. Wokeism suggests that all inequalities of today are attributable to not only historic injustices, but also continuing injustices in the now. And that all disparity is attributable to discrimination.
Like that, but a conservative.
Not just that.
A conservative is the only person. And I want to know why. Why is it that conservatives are the only people who define it like that? Why are conservatives the only people?
Okay, so we're gonna have to stop here because this is going nowhere. But
what's up?
I'm gonna have to stop with this with you because this is going nowhere. All I'm going to say is this. To sum up,
I just am trying to understand your perspective. Just one more second.
On a fundamental level, you're shifting definitions to avoid the consequences of your.
All right. So at this point, they are now one of the handlers of the event is physically trying to block the microphone from you. I mean, I'm assuming this is the same person who tried to get you off a couple minutes earlier.
Yeah, and there's also another person dragging me by the arm, trying to get me out the door, and the police officers doing a "please exit" hand sign. And I didn't really have any. I really didn't want to give the crowd what they wanted to see, which is an unhinged leftist who can't control themselves. Which honestly, I could barely control myself. I was just fuming after hearing all that hate speech, essentially. So I'm actually surprised I was able to get through it.
All right, let's. Listen, I think that opener was fantastic. I think the crowd and Ben Shapiro, obviously, how the event is going after you make this great point. I think they obviously, it gets a little crazy after that. And, he interjects and the crowd's booing at you. But I think your point is made the second you point out to Ben Shapiro about trauma and wokeness in that aspect. I think there's nothing he says after that even addresses it. Let's to be fair, let's continue until I think there's only a few more seconds before you're gone. But let's keep playing.
Argument. And if the idea is
they're cheering because they're taking you out.
And final point. If you are going to hold on, if you are also, just final point to sum up there. Final point to sum.
I can follow that.
Yeah, I just want to make I want to make one final point to sum up there. if the idea is that traumas of the past invariably bleed down into the present, that does not explain why certain groups that have been historically not only marginalized but slaughtered in mass genocide are some of the most successful groups in our society. So if the idea is that past trauma always equals current inequality, or that my actions in, say, robbing a convenience store are attributable to bad actions that happened in Alabama in 1930, the answer to that is no. Don't rob the convenience store. The only way they are going to be able to break the chain of history is to make good decisions.
Whoa. Okay,
I
I guess
It's
I
such-
didn't. Hold on, I guess I didn't take it this far when I watched it the first time. I thought I heard everything you had to say. Very interesting that he goes his example, because he's clearly pointing out, he's clearly going right to the idea that slavery should not be affecting modern day black families, obviously.
Yeah.
And his go-to is robbing a convenience store. Would he have used that same example to try to, I don't know, bring up maybe like what a poor Jewish person would do? Also, I'm assuming that's his example of a previous generation who has gone through some sort of genocide and have been very successful. I mean, the idea that all Jews are super successful would be news to me and my Jewish family.
Yeah, I know, right?
But sorry, Dad. But it's bizarre that that's his take. I mean, he rolls right up into really a white supremacist trope. What is he saying? All Jews are rich and control whatever he wants to say they control. I mean, really bizarre. And then he goes to the example of a black person robbing a convenience store. What in the world?
Yeah. He's clearly referring to, it's clearly just anti-black racism sort of coded in speech with a little bit of plausible deniability. But that was most of the lecture. It was 30 minutes of that, which sort of sets you on edge by the end of it.
I am wow. So let's just okay, you're there. I want to get your thoughts here. And let's make it clear for people who maybe had trouble with the back and forth with the crowd's reaction. How did you define wokeism to Ben?
Or
Or even in general, how would you define it at all? I mean,
for your audience's sake and just for people's general interest, if they're curious about my thoughts.
Also, I just want to add an addendum here too, that when we're talking about wokeism, I mean, it's a bullshit word. It means not, so we're doing this for the conservative audience, or at least you were doing that for a conservative audience, speaking to Ben Shapiro, to try to, I don't know, and I thought it was well done, sort of play into their own rhetoric by saying, I mean, basically you're just describing like racism or understanding racism or being anti-racist as wokeism.
Yes. And I think the point I was trying to make is that as somebody from the Midwest who was living in Iowa, which is a state that's almost, it's like 92% white, what wokeism means is just being awake to the fact that there are people whose ancestors have experienced some sort of trauma or problems, and that can be economic, it can be racial, it can be all kinds of things. And then there are other people whose ancestors were racist, like the tattoo artist with the 88s on his neck or something like that, and that gets taught and bleeds through in generations and has current consequences. And I don't think it's limited to just history either. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but as far as I understand, wokeness is just being awake to social issues around you.
Now, Ben seemed to have been making the argument that wokeism is what? Go ahead. Why don't you tell me what you took from what Ben Shapiro's argument was while you were there and he was talking with you?
Yeah, it's almost like an absurd reduction. It's reducing all wokeism to its purely racial component. There's no admission of the power structures or the economic structures that might run in parallel to those racial components. And it is just the most racially reduced understanding of the word possible. And I think that's why I switched topics while I was listening in the stands, because I just couldn't think. It's impossible that somebody could think about the world in such a black and white way that everything is reducible to race. I really don't think there's any leftist who has any prominence who thinks that.
Right. Would you, I'm trying to think, the idea, he was sort of making the argument that, I think he had too much CRT on the brain, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like that's where he was going with this.
Yeah. And I think he was upset because he's coming to Iowa as an outsider, and I live there. And I helped organize for Elizabeth Warren, but I don't want to take thunder away from people like Anna Hall and Jamie Raskin. I was just on edge a little bit, and I missed.
Oh, right. You were just in the you were just in the moment. You were talking with him, and you just had to say it as as compact as possible because you had limited time. No, I get that. I don't think anyone would take that away as you stealing anything from anyone.
Right. So I just wanted to tell him, how can you tell me? I live here in Iowa with these students. I go to school with these students. I'm a leftist. How are you going to tell me what it means for me to be woke? It's the most ridiculous idea possible.
Is that school a conservative school, or is it like what are students there? What's the demographic makeup of that school?
I think some people maybe would think I was being a little bit overly dramatic when I say this, but I think there's a sense of racial entitlement and resentment that sort of pervades Midwest culture to an extent. You see sort of pockets of it everywhere, and people in the Midwest are just starting to wake up to the racial and economic inequalities in this country, if that makes sense. So there's a little bit of that at Iowa State University, and I think that...
I feel like that describes a lot of the blowback we're seeing across the country. Post-2020, all these people see the reaction from especially young people and even older people. It was a big reaction against police brutality in the summer of 2020 in wake of the police killing of George Floyd. And I think it took a little while for the blowback to actually be put into action, but I think that explains a lot what we're seeing right now. We're seeing conservatives extremely angry in certain parts of the country where they thought they were in these little safe bubble. They had a safe space from progressive ideals because that's only for the big blue lib states in, coastal cities. We're not in California or Washington State. This is in Oregon or New York City or, this isn't some liberal haven here. We're in, I don't know, like Iowa, for example. And then they saw in the summer of 2020, people actually are waking up to this in our town, in our city, and took a few months, but here we are now.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think seeing it in their backyard, like we had protests probably in every major city in Iowa. And I think a lot of people were very surprised to see it there and were caught off guard. I have a habit of just going out and speaking to right-wingers just to gauge their idea. It's kind of my way of keeping my thumb on the pulse of my community. And I remember one time speaking to an older guy. He's a boomer. And he was just so frustrated talking back and forth to me. And he said, "Don't you understand? If what you're saying is right, then everything I've believed in my whole life is wrong."
Whoa, this happened after the thing?
No, this was during the BLM summer.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Okay, no. Okay, so but still, that's pretty crazy. Someone said that to you. during oh wow. And what was that? What was your reaction to that?
Uh, just completely flabbergasted. I mean, I'm not trying to hurt anybody or like destroy their psyche or anything crazy like that. So I just let him be because I didn't. It's tricky as leftists in the Midwest. We're trying to open people up to ideas and maybe be a little bit um, aggressive to spread ideology in day-to-day conversation. But I mean, they're human beings too, and even if they have like misguided and crappy thoughts, I don't think we should go out and target the people. Like the people who should be hurting are really the demagogues and politicians, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Just interesting to hear that, just straight up like that. I mean, they didn't even hide it. That's interesting. So
No, I think they were a little bit caught off guard because I had asked them right before they said that. I asked them if they worked with anybody who was a person of color, and they said blah 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 blah. And I said, "Is there anybody who works at your same level in the hierarchy of your company?" And that's the reply I got to that question.
now, would the event that at the Ben Shapiro event that he spoke at,
Yeah, yeah.
was that mostly students, or did you notice that was just like people who didn't even go to the school, older people? What was the makeup of that?
I'd say it was about three-quarters students and then a quarter people from the community.
Okay,
When I
just
went when I went around and interviewed people, I think something that was a little troubling was that most people had heard about it not from the university, but had heard about it just from listening to the podcast. So these are active and engaged fans.
and how do you know how this event got set up there? Is this something that the school usually does, or did something or is this not normal to have someone like Ben Shapiro come to the school?
It's very abnormal. It was not publicized at all. Almost nobody in the community realized it was happening until it was happening. And I think one of the other odd things about the engagement is that I guess that it sold out so many seats for a speaking engagement. Stevens Auditorium, most of the things that happen there are like there's some athletic space I think attached, and then there may be like music or comedy shows. It was really odd to have him here.
Do you think the school will invite Ben Shapiro back? I mean, you were the only
Maybe.
person that I think on that video so maybe the event went great. Who knows for them? I mean,
So the one of the most interesting things is that the event was free, but also paid. So there's an organization, I can't remember their name, but you can look it up on the Daily Wire's website. And basically, they pay Ben Shapiro and the university to have him appear, and then it's free to the people who actually come. It's in partnership with that Young Americans for Freedom (YAF). I don't
it's
know. There's some gray financial dealings there.
it's the same exact thing they do, where all the conservative authors just happen to have bestsellers every time they drop a new book, because all these conservative organizations just buy a bunch of these books in bulk in order for it to hit a bestseller, and then they either just give them away or sell them or like resell them themselves on their shop. But that way, the conservative author can go around saying, "I got a bestseller." No one's reading these
Yeah,
books. No one's reading these books, just like no one's paying to attend these events.
yeah. I 100% agree that I think that's definitely part of it. And well, so I don't know
I
if
just
there's a
want to
very
say
natural
that
way.
there should be a bunch of leftist organizations that buy my book when I release it, whenever that is, whenever I get a book. My point, there's nothing equivalent on the left, even like progressive or even liberal. Like honestly, like conservatives have their own little grift running there's no equal to.
Yeah, absolutely. And just this whole speaking engagement in general, the only thing that props it up is the fact that he's talking alone. It's basically a fan tour. And when I spoke to people afterwards, I think one of the most confusing things about it is I heard people saying things like Ben Shapiro is the right's answer to leftist comedians, which was really bizarre to me, because I thought they people on the right sort of perceived him as an intellectual.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's his whole gimmick. He's the
yes,
conservative wonder kid. He's the intellectual mind of the conservative personality influencer economy. That's his whole shtick.
but I think there is some submerged awareness that what he's doing is not what an academic does when they go to give a speech, and that something about the thing is extremely strange. Um, I was going to say there's not an easy way to segue into it, but I had some tips for other people because I think these sorts of disruptions are pretty useful to the left. I'm not one of those people who thinks that you can debate and maybe convince people actively or convince Ben Shapiro actively of a point. I think it works at the peripheries. So people who haven't had any contact with Ben Shapiro see the clips and think, that's that person's an idiot. I don't want to listen to what they have to say. So it sort of serves to immunize younger people. And I think at the peripheries, it sort of influences some people who are fans to sort of engage less. So I'm a big proponent of things like this to do besides your political engagement. But I have some tips for people if you think that'd be useful.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was gonna be the last question I asked you. I was gonna ask for you to, for anyone who's looking to do a similar sort of impromptu debate with really any conservative speaking in their town or school or wherever. Please,
Hmm.
by all means, tell people what you learned, what they can, what you did that you thought worked, or even what you think you, after doing it, what you would have done better that they could possibly do.
Yeah. So I think my philosophy to attending these types of events and arguing with right wingers is um, one, it's an argument, and the person will definitely lie if they feel like they're cornered. So don't even approach it from the mindset that you have to actively respond to the types of things you're saying. Nomiki Konst is somebody who appears a lot on Fox News, and she says she memorizes her points ahead of time so she can just continue on with whatever she was going to say and just ignore the host. And I think that's really good advice. Um, the next thing I'd say is that if you listen to people who are prank callers or sort of professional pranksters, you sort of get this idea that if you're determined, you can actually talk over other people pretty easily. Most people are caught off guard just by someone leaning into mics, which are very directional. Um, and they'll just shut up for a little bit, which gives you a moment to think and go on the offensive. Um, so those are my two things that I had thought going into it. So I think one thing that I really didn't anticipate is how visceral the reaction would be from the crowd. I mean, people were really angry. Um, Afterwards, actually, I had a
Good.
representative
That's what
from
I say.
the
Good.
school come up.
Yeah, but
Huh?
I was just saying good that they were angry. But continue. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The
And that
representative from
can
the school
feel,
said what?
it can be very threatening feeling. And just being there, honestly, it made me feel so like sick with anger. The first thing I did when I left is I just like stood around and cried, honestly, because it's so sad to see people who are like young, they have their whole lives ahead of them, and like what they're engaging with is just this like hateful garbage.
What
Um,
what were you gonna say about what someone from the school said to you?
Oh, so this was the most interesting part is that afterwards, someone from the school came up to me and said, "Okay, do you feel like you're going to be safe? Blah, blah, blah. We have
Hmm.
people who can escort you. You can call this number." And then what they said to me was really interesting and I thought was insightful to the way that these events are organized. So he told me that when the school entered the agreement with Ben Shapiro to come speak, they had signed a contract about how the leftists would speak to Ben Shapiro. And the rule was that leftists were allowed to ask one question, and then they could not speak it anymore and had to be escorted off premises. So the school apologized that there were people who had their hands on me because they said, well, it's a contractual obligation. Basically, after you ask your question, we have to make you leave because that's what we had agreed to beforehand with Mr. Shapiro. And I think that was one of the most telling things to me that made me realize really this is all a grift. I mean, he really doesn't even want to talk to people. He just wants to make his little snippet that makes a leftist look unhinged to put on his YouTube channel and, throw red meat to his base.
Well, I gotta say, it didn't work out for him this time for sure.
Yeah.
Is there something? You would say? I don't think you said anything to this aspect, but I want to just make sure. Was there anything that you think you could have done differently or better after going through that maybe people can use next time?
Yeah, I think a great point, something that I learned while I was actively there is that there's a lot of adrenaline that's associated with just being yelled at that loudly. And I think it really helped frazzled my thoughts along with everything else that was going on. And I think simplifying your points helps a lot. I mean, I had an argument that was meant to be a little bit longer and take up time and sort of dissuade people of some of their ideas and sort of disrupt the event. But I really didn't expect that all the nuance would leave my brain as soon as I started talking.
I will say I sort of noticed that like your strongest showing was right out of the gate before the crowd started realizing what was going on. But you know what? That portion that you put out there, I think, chef's kiss. I mean, it was, oh my God. The second I read I said it before, but I still can't get over it. I was reading it and I was like, oh my God, this is genius, I said to myself. And then, and he didn't know what to say. He had nothing. He had nothing for you at all once he saw where this was going. He even agreed before trying to change what he said, change like the playing field. Like he acknowledged the point you were making and then tried to redefine what the whole argument was actually going to be about when it just wasn't. When it just wasn't. Because what do you say to that? You don't. There's nothing.
I mean, to parody his ideas, he basically said, oh, yeah, of course, racism has consequences and there's intergenerational trauma and that has effects today. But what about this racist trope from the 1950s? And that was kind of his main point.
All right. And then he still can't believe he brought up the convenience store robbery. Oh, my God. Did you even hear that as you were being escorted out?
No.
Oh, my God. Did you notice that prior to listening to it here with me?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I bet you were really wishing he said that to you while you were at the mic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man. Ben, I really appreciate you taking the time. I want to say I thought you were great. And for someone who was just doing this, a recent graduate of the school, deciding to represent, I think you did better than anyone could have expected from really even just like, I don't even know if I could have done as well. You went in there with a perfect plan and I think you delivered. So good job, man. I thought it was great. And, I think a lot of people agree being that it went viral.
Yeah, I appreciate your words.
Did you hear from, one last question. Was there anyone you knew there? Did you hear from anyone, recent graduates, people you knew while you were attending about this?
Yeah, I was hoping that it wasn't going to be taped like that. But yeah, and I've been really thankful that all of my colleagues and students I went to school with have been supportive who have seen it.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for you. Well deserved. Is there anything you want to shout out, promote, anything you want? Floor is yours. Feel free. If you have a website, any projects you're working on, whatever you would feel comfortable sharing. You don't have to share anything at all. I just want to give you the opportunity.
Yeah, if you don't mind me using this time to promote something else that's going on in the academic space.
Sure.
Indiana University, which is a big university in central Indiana, started a strike to get recognition for their graduate student union on April 13th. To give you an idea of how extreme the conditions are at this university, there are as many graduate students who are working for IU whose labor is primarily uncompensated or extremely poorly compensated as there are people who are officially hired. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. And I think these types of movements, I mean, any union building, I think, shows solidarity between people in different working class roles. So I'd encourage people, especially if they're Midwesterners and they're local, to maybe buy a pizza. You can go online at indianagradworkers.org and contribute and get involved. And I hope some of your listeners are nearby and can.
All right, sounds great. Thanks for dropping. I mean, of course you could drop that, please, and everyone go check it out. If you send me, you know how to contact me. Send me any links, and I could put them in the description for the episode. Ben Schneider, thank you so much for joining me, and we got to watch the Battle of the Bens with commentary from one of those Bens. Maybe one day we'll get commentary from the other Ben. Thanks so much.
Someday.
Really, maybe. Yeah, I hope. Really pleasure talking with you today. Have a great night.
You as well. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that went great. I really enjoyed talking with Ben. When I saw the news last night, I was like, should I change and do the I have to discuss? And I was like, you know what? I'm talking about, obviously, the Supreme Court leak about Roe v. Wade. I'm like, you know what? Everyone's going to be talking about this. Everyone's going to feel like shit. And, I totally get it, rightfully so. I'm not, but you know what? Let's stay the course with this episode of Doomed, because it's we get to see one of these guys who are out there, beating their chest about the Roe v. Wade rumored or current or not finalized Roe v. Wade decision. We get to see them owned, and we could talk with the guy who did it. So I was like, maybe Doomed can offer a little bit of levity, if that's the right word I'm looking for. We'll definitely do an episode on Roe v. Wade, probably a little bit different, focus on something a little bit different than other people are talking about. I was actually looking at some of the implications of what can possibly happen and how there are various tech companies who are going to be used by some horrible right-wing institutions. And I'll do an episode on that probably next. But I really enjoyed doing this episode. Much needed, I think. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to go to the second half of the show. Everyone watching right now can stay on, and you'll be able to call into the show. You'll be able to call me and talk with me on Skype. Download Skype if you don't have it and search Doomed Live. But before we do that, folks, to support this show, go to patreon.com/MattBinder. Really appreciate it. We just went past the first of the month on Sunday. Every time it's the first of the month, that's when Patreon starts charging people for their monthly subscription. That's when, no surprises, but that's when we lose some people due to various different financial problems, or simply, things happen. I totally get it. You get card declines, card cancellations, people going through rough patches. Please, if you can't afford to do it, take care of yourself first. But if you can, patreon.com/MattBinder. Honestly, we are about 1/3 where I would like to be able to bring on board. Could probably do it. Maybe we're halfway to bringing on board people, and 1/3 of the way where I can bring on enough people to sustain something bigger. I really want to grow this show. And the other show I do, Scam Economy. And also branch out into more, relaunch the newsletter that I was doing, original reports, written reporting, do more standalone YouTube vids like the Boogaloo Boy video I did last year. So folks, patreon.com/MattBinder if you can, because you'll be the ones to make it all happen. I want to thank the patrons who joined over the past week. When was the last show? Okay, all right, let's do this. We got John H, Matt S, Claire C, Chris S, Todd B, Burayan, Jose, and Eric S. Thank you so much for subscribing to the Patreon page and supporting the show. Really, you guys make this all happen. And over on Twitch, twitch.tv/MattBinder. Once again, you could become a Twitch Prime subscriber. It comes free with your Amazon Prime subscription. Just connect your Amazon Prime account with your Twitch Prime account. And every month, you can basically take money from Amazon and give it to me. It literally costs you nothing extra. It comes free with your Amazon Prime subscription. By not giving me this Twitch Prime subscription, you're letting Amazon keep more of your money than they need to. Just go to twitch.tv/MattBinder to subscribe. And the people who've done that, Teacher Lauren subscribed with Prime, Nah412, Cat Herder 13, Cranial Vaulter, Zen Cyclist cheered with bits a couple days ago, Princess Monaco subscribe with Prime, Snoozin' Susan subscribe with Prime, Ponderosa Pine subscribe with Prime, Cractuary, Spacco, Ubi Gabe, all subscribe with Prime, Zachamania and Spiky Mike both cheered with some bits. That's when you basically drop like a super chat and Twitch on Twitch. Zachamania also subscribe with Prime, Catnum58, Andreticus, Solid Splake, Kitty's Hooch, Nug Wrangler. Thank you all so much for subscribing on Twitch at twitch.tv/MattBinder. Also, if you're watching live on YouTube, you could drop a super chat, youtube.com/MattBinder. I will read your super chat. Oh, we just got a new patron coming in just this very moment from Cameron R. I'm pretty sure this is our resident crypto miner who calls in giving us updates. I'm pretty sure with all those new crypto riches, I'm sure he's got the money to spare. So thank you. But thank you, Cameron. I appreciate the support. Always a pleasure when you call in. Thank you, everybody. Oh, also, if you missed the live stuff, you can drop super chats now on the replays. They're called Super Thanks. It's pretty cool. YouTube just launched it. Instead of highlighting a comment in the live chat, it highlights like a regular comment, and you get to give me a one-off donation. So if you've been wondering how to do, you want to subscribe and want to give a one-off, and you've been wondering how to do that, you go to any one of the YouTube videos and drop a super thanks. Sort of corny name, but it's a cool feature, I think. What else? Doomedcast.com for the podcast versions of the show. Check out Scam Economy, my crypto skeptic show at scameconomy.com. What else? I'll be doing a live Scam Economy episode in Brooklyn as part of Digital Void's Brooklyn Fest. There'll be a bunch of other people. I think Jake Flores from Pod Damn America is doing a stand-up set. It's like a variety show of some of your favorite podcasts and internet personalities. It's going to be at and I'll get you. I should have retweeted the address. Hold on one second. Silly me. Look at me, not doing anything right that I should have had it ready. But okay, it's going to be at Littlefield in Brooklyn on May 26th. Bridget Marie's There Are No Girls on the Internet podcast. Dylan Adler and Jake Flores will be there doing sets. Scam Economy, a live episode of Scam Economy, and it seems like there'll be even more to be announced soon. So definitely go check it out. You can go to @DigitalVoidMedia on Twitter for more information. It's on, cool. I'm looking forward to it. And with that being said, what else? I think that's it. Join me for the second half of the show. If you're watching live or you're a patron, you don't have to go anywhere because I won't be going anywhere. You could just tune in. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, this is where I say see you later. Scam Economies on Thursday. Got a great episode lined up for you. Until then, or until you tune into the next Doomed episode, I will see you next time on Doomed. We're back. What's up, everybody? We are on the post show, the second half of the show. I am signing in to the Skype now. I'm honestly expecting a lot of calls based on today's news, but maybe there won't be a lot of calls. I don't know. Just open up your Skype, type in Doomed Live. Last episode of Scam Economy, we received tons of calls, more than I could even accept for that episode. Maybe Thursday is just the call day for everybody. I don't know. Let's go to... Oh, right. Nina Turner today in Ohio. It's not looking good. I didn't expect it to look good, honestly. It's hard to beat an incumbent with such institutional mainstream support. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Well.
Oh, right. No, you got it.
It has been a while, Matt.
Has it? Didn't we talk just last week?
No, it was like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, all right. How you doing, Grim?
I am doing well, thank you. I did have some thought about a little comparison between Musk and Trump and talking about the many forms of power.
Sure.
But that's just sort of like an appetizer to this main thing I've been sort of working on that I think you might enjoy, that is like an alternative to horseshoe theory.
Mm-hmm.
Because, there isn't really much of that right wing behaving like the left. Doesn't sort of work in the reverse.
What do you mean?
So the horseshoe theory that the far left and the far right are indistinguishable.
Right. I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, I know. And the main reason I think it's bullshit is because there isn't an equal... Yes, there are far leftists who wind up defecting for various reasons. And I want to talk about those kind of reasons why someone might defect. And so an alternative sort of visual image that I was trying to work through in my head. But first, to just start with Musk and Trump, the comparison I see is that they both spent their daddy's money to attain fame and not higher wealth.
Yeah.
Because they both could have made way more money keeping their fucking mouth shut and actually living to that sort of Protestant ethic bullshit. Instead, they realized that there are other ways to gain power.
Right.
Power isn't just... Money alone is not just power. There are all kinds of social and cultural relationships, namely fame, celebrity, that are also a kind of power. So when Trump said somebody on Fifth Avenue and nothing would happen, the reality of that is that, one, because of his money, he's insulated, but also because of his fame, he's insulated.
Right.
So I have a very real fear that eventually Musk will run for office.
Well, he can't run for the presidency.
Oh, right. Well, no, yeah, because he's a foreigner.
Think this out. Well, did you?
That one part, yeah, that one part about the analogy. But apparently, you know Curtis Yarvin, right? Mencius Goldbug,
Yes.
the neo-reactionary who's best buddies with Nick Land, who was Mark Fisher's old advisor at the University of Warwick, which was before Nick was obvious about what he is, which is that they're both neo-reactionaries. Apparently, in this particularly NRX flavor of neo-fascists, they want Musk to be like some sort of whatever fascist business autocrat, I guess corporatist autocrat, and they see him as their like icon. Again, because he's done what a lot of people on the right do, which is convert their wealth into cultural power, which is actually phenomenally cheap versus generating political power and paying those people off, which is also not that expensive, but it's even cheaper to throw some money at the Blaze, or to put $12 million through Goldman Sachs and give that to the Tricontinental Group and the People's Forum, which came out, I think, this winter. It was announced that they were those two organizations were given money. I forget what it's called, something donor, something fund. Basically, again, like a dark money sort of thing.
Right.
And those are both leftist groups. The Tricontinental Group is where Vijay Prashad is, and he's he's an apologist for Xinjiang, Russia. Similar in this sort of vulgar anti-imperialist or alt-imperialist mindset,
Mm-hmm.
which would lead us into where I was going to go with this alternate horseshoe theory. But I do want to stay for just a second on the way in which, again, not just money itself doesn't just create power, but it's also what you do with the money. And so, for example, there are a lot of right-wing journals that don't make money. They wouldn't exist on their own. But you have very wealthy benefactors like Tucker Carlson, heir to the Swanson fortune. You have whoever backs the Blaze, who turned out a year or two ago, who funds the Federalist.
Right.
So these things don't make money. But what they do make is they make the heir of the sort of moral majority that they claim. They create a culture that maintains or, if not, expands their power.
Yes, and that's
And
good.
that-
I mean, I mean, it's a self-sustaining model where they basically need to. I mean, they feed off of it. They need this sort of these media, whatever media outlets they have, whatever organizations they fund. They need it to make it. It's like the circle of life for reactionary outrage. They need it to, to sustain so that they can funnel people into their ideology with their rhetoric, with their talking points. There's no direct, it depends. Some of them do actually make money because there is money in outrage.
Some do.
People click through. Yes.
But some of like for example, how the Daily Wire and the Daily Caller manipulate Facebook ads.
Yes. Yes.
So again, it's still shady, astroturfing, like you discussed. How people will buy up books, and so it winds up being sort of like a vanity press gesture. Where, I mean, I've seen that before with more so like art and experimental literature, where people just produce a huge amount of their books or themselves and just give it out. Because again, it's just about, on some level, it is about vanity. But there are also people in this world like the Kochs, Thiel, Mercers, the DeVos family, and they genuinely believe in either just some sort of neo-fascism or these various Christian nationalisms and Christian dominionism.
Right.
And they have the money to back it up. So speaking about money and how it affects the left now. So this alternative to the horseshoe theory is what I call the flying V guitar of leftist political circuits. Now you could also say it's the Y-wing bomber, but the V guitar image I think looks better. So imagine, a V guitar where there's like one edge is maybe a little shorter than the other.
Okay.
And I'll clarify in a second. So the bridge on the guitar is what I call the winnowing flight of advancing socialism, both anarchist and communist. And so that's sort of your devoted, diehard leftists who are pushing themselves to be more and more left and trying to figure out how to actually realize these ideals, no longer as ideals, but as lived possibilities. And so, again, I say it's a winnowing flight because that process of becoming more left is always going to be less and less people.
Right.
Now, here's the V. So the short circuit, which we'll imagine if you're looking at the guitar, you got one shorter section that goes up a little bit and the one that goes down. But those are both going towards the right. So the one that goes up, but is still not going as far, but goes to the right, is what we would call, people who went far left, but then got reabsorbed into the Democratic Party. Now, all kinds of people do this for all kinds of reasons, but that's still ultimately, and thinking back to say that Musk comic that he stole from someone and that he made popular about the Overton window. That's really what this is all talking about is how we perceive how people transition across the Overton window.
Right. I mean, I think that Musk image is so ridiculous, and I think he doesn't know what he's talking about, obviously. And I guess it shouldn't be surprising that people eat that shit up.
No, but it's also because it reaffirms for them what they've been hearing from a media that is not liberal, has never been liberal, and at least to the extent that it is liberal, it is only liberal if you accept that liberal is fundamentally conservative, capitalist. If we went back to the strong original roots of that word, instead of just liberal is left of anything that I don't like.
Right.
So now let's think about the long circuit, the longer V. That's people who defect all the way to the far right. And that's Chris Hedges this weekend saying that David Icke is actually not an anti-Semite.
And David Icke, yeah.
I figured Icke would be fun.
Yeah.
He apparently was also defending some poet Alice Walker, who's also said some anti-Semitic stuff that I haven't looked into that, so I can't totally speak on it. But I could definitely tell you David Icke is an anti-Semite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Also, another not exactly friend of the show, Bree Riefenstahl, apparently was praising Trump. I know.
Oh wait, whoa! All right, let's. All right, go ahead. Let's go ahead.
I'll say it again, but
yeah.
Brianna, in her infinite wisdom, was praising Trump for the student debt payment freeze, which he only signed that, and that came from the House, and he didn't really. That wasn't something he pushed for. So she had no reason to thank him for that outside of the virtue signal.
Wait. Who did she thank?
Trump.
What did she say?
She said, "Thank you, Trump, for the student debt payment freeze because now Joe Biden isn't continuing it."
I mean,
which it sucks that Joe Biden isn't continuing it, but you literally do not have to hand it to Trump.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, come on. I didn't know she did that.
And again,
she also had someone on recently who I was like, "What the fuck are you doing here? Why you haven't?" Oh, was it Max Blumenthal? I think. Yeah, I think that was who it was.
Oh yeah. Well,
what? There's. I don't see the. I don't see it. I mean, you wanna have Glenn Greenwald on? I think that's fair in terms of you can actually still do something. Have a substantive conversation where you can tackle things he says because he's still very influential. and have a discussion with him about that. But I don't see a purpose to Max Blumenthal. I guess my main thing is that Glenn Greenwald is just throwing out random right-wing talking points, whereas Max Blumenthal is full-blown into conspiracy theory, and there's no point to conspiracy theory discussion.
I don't think there's an actual difference there. It's just that
I think there is. I definitely think there is. There's a huge difference that Glenn Greenwald not diving into COVID conspiracy theories is a huge difference.
He's constantly
This is not me handing it to him. This is me explaining why I think you can still have someone like him on your show, but having Max Blumenthal on is no.
Yes. I do see how that like Max gets way more in the dirt on like just being a shill for the absolute worst, most heinous ideas possible. But they're all still like, I mean, certainly Glenn has probably been on Tucker a lot more than Max.
Oh yeah, but I think you can there's something there to debate and debunk. It's purposeless with Blumenthal because I mean he's out there literally. Yeah.
I mean, he's Hillary Clinton's he's the son of Hillary Clinton's hatchet man who was going around terrorizing every victim of her husband's. I mean, this person did not remotely have an upbringing that would have made him a sane person. Now, he was for maybe a very short time a decade ago, but he is a foreign agent now. And has been for years. And all the same people whining about Syria and how Bashar al-Assad's a good guy. Some of them seem to also be the same people who think the same supposed leftists who think wokeism is bad, cancel culture is bad, which I can really see now. Also, how identity politics is so bad. We should really not worry about people's identities because it's not like it makes them increasingly vulnerable to certain things now, does it?
Yeah,
definitely wouldn't make them vulnerable to the kind of people that they court, who might blow up an abortion clinic or something, or listen to Bill O'Reilly saying for years and years how a abortion doctor was Tiller the baby killer.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened to George Tiller. People in the audience who don't know that story, you should Google that. I'm sure you'll be really surprised about how that ends.
There was I forgot, it was a Breitbart editor or something who was going out there saying how we're going to see extremism now from the left I forgot who it was. We're going to see extremism now from the left, something the right never did. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me?
A lot of that like, I mean, I would never on air suggest people commit felonies.
Let's end it there, Grim. Have a great night. Have a great night, Grim. Have a great night, my friend. Take care.
Absolutely. Be well, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. I went a little bit long with Grim, but I wanted to see I was interested where he was going with that V guitar thing. I think he was he lost me in the audience a little bit, but then he got back. He came back. He came back with something. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Matt. It's Tony from Texas.
Hey, Tony. Can I pull you up on the feed?
Please do.
What would you like to talk about?
So I would like to address something from the MR Fun Half last Thursday.
Oh boy, I don't remember anything. Go ahead. Let's see if I even recall what you're going to talk about.
I'm sure. It's very simple. Somebody brought up the question waffles versus pancakes.
Oh, okay.
And on that front, I mean that it depends. You can make waffles or pancakes literally out of the same mix. It's just a matter of, do I cook it on a flat surface or do I cook it on a shaped like griddle? And to each their own on that preference. But then the conversation swung to the New York style versus Chicago deep dish pizza. and I have a hot take that I need to share about that.
Go ahead.
As an avid sandwich aficionado, artisan, and enjoyer, I like eating Chicago deep dish, but I do not respect it as a pizza.
Oh.
That
fire. Maybe it's sort. Is it sort of how it's probably how I view like Domino's pizza. Like I love Domino's pizza. I gotta be feeling Domino's pizza though. Like if I'm in the mood for pizza, that's not Domino's. If I'm in the mood for pizza, that's pizzeria pizza. If I'm in the mood for Domino's, I'm in the mood for Domino's. It's a separate entity altogether.
Right.
It's like a different food group.
It's still depending on how it's made, it's still technically a sandwich as well as like most pizzas and tacos, y'all. Like these are all sandwiches. But yeah, no, but like deep dish, it's almost like a savory cake or something. Like it's not really pizza. Anyway, I just need to share. I had some other thing to call in about, but I'm gonna save it for Thursday. It's a scam economy thing.
Oh, okay, cool. Sounds good. Ooh, I'm looking forward. You want to give me a little sneak peek without getting too into it?
I mean, it's not much. If I gave you a sneak peek,
okay, then it's the whole thing. All right. All right, that works. That works. Everybody, absolutely do not look forward to Tony's call on Thursday. It's not going to be anything great. It's just
this is gonna be a little tiny thing. But thanks for taking my call, Matt. You have a great night.
I do have to say the topics for the show on Thursday will be very interesting. I'll give you guys a sneak peek right now. Wikipedia has ended its acceptance of crypto donations, and on top of that, Ethereum fees skyrocketed over the weekend due to a Bored Ape NFT thing. We'll be getting deep into both of those, and also I gotta let my guests know about this sudden addition. I want to talk a little bit about this ridiculousness I saw in the news after Roe v. Wade, that the leak came out. There were a few Web3 people, crypto people, who had a great idea. Blockchain could solve the problem. They were talking about something called Abortion DAO and all other sorts of wonderful crypto ways that you could monetize giving women abortions, I guess. I mean, that's the only way I can see this being a thing at all. I mean, these guys are ridiculous. So they don't read the room ever. Thanks for the call, though, Tony. It'll be a fun Thursday, I promise.
Always a pleasure. Looking forward to it, man.
Bye.
Later.
All right. Let's see. We got some super chats I should read. My dad with a super chat. Show Lek Brendan how to set up both YouTube phone and TV. I'm talking fun half link YouTube TV app, no link. I have no idea what my dad's talking about. Something that the majority report messed up. I'll talk with them on Thursday about whatever it is that you could possibly be talking about, Dad. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Zach from Northeast Tennessee. I'm here to debate you.
Oh, you're here to debate? Oh, okay, put you up on the screen.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, boy, here we go. Let's do this, Zach. What would you like to talk or debate about?
Well, we're going to debate really quickly. This show's lame, and it's got woke, and I think we're all going to have to find a better show to watch. And since that's 2 questions, that's the end of the debate.
Oh, that was a pretty good. I gotta say, your mile a minute talking pattern there was very Shapiro-esque. That was pretty good.
That's a southern Shapiro.
It's a southern Shapiro, right. What would you to talk about?
Well, I wanted to just talk about really quickly our boy JP Mandel.
Oh, I just saw.
Now Okay, we have J.D. Vance,
Right.
and then we have Josh Mandel.
Right.
Two different people. Well, what Trump did, this is the genius of Trump.
He combined
He
them both.
he combined them, and tonight we can, I think, declare J.P. Mandel as a winner. So
Yeah.
congratulations, J.P. Mandel.
Yeah, I mean, can't go wrong if you create some sort of monster where you combine the two of them. You can't go wrong because one of them was most likely to win. So there you go. Trump couldn't come out on the losing end there.
Well, here's I don't know if this is my conspiracy theory. I don't know if this has been postulated elsewhere. Do you think he did that on purpose? I mean, I know J.D. Vance
No.
was in attendance.
No.
You don't think he just messed up?
Trump is very
He's just
dumb. Trump is very dumb. He didn't do that on purpose. He did that.
he-
His mind can no longer function in ways that it once
Yeah.
could. He's going. He's an older man. My grandma would combine her grandchildren's names every now and then, and she was pretty on the ball otherwise. I think, and she was a lot older than he was. She was in her mid-90s doing that. So I mean,
right. He's a 76-year-old peepaw. She was a 90-year-old meemaw, and I'm sure much smarter and much sharper.
Right. She has she had a grandkid named whose name is John Michael, and she had a grandkid named Matthew, and she would regularly in her late 90s refer to one of us when talking to one of us as John Matthew, just combining the two. That's what Trump did. I think it's quite clear that it's going, and that's the easy thing to do. You got a lot of names in your head. You're an older person. You're trying to, and you're just talking, and a combination of both come out.
Yeah, it's like I'd like to thank Gerhard for his strong work, Hans for his very tough labor, and I have mixed the names up. I mean, this guy, he's scared me. But I just wanted to I just wanted to call in and say good show. That was excellent. It exposed Ben, I think, as a quote debate bro. He finally had someone that really had an intellectual dagger to throw at him, and he wanted no part of it. I mean, do you think that? Do you feel the same way? I just feel like that was maybe the first time that somebody.
I think he was so thrown off by that introduction. I think our Ben Schneider, he came at it. I mean, that I really thought that was a brilliant way to go at him in terms of intergenerational trauma of Holocaust survivors' families, and how that relates to the intergenerational trauma and effects of Black American families. And he did not have anything for it. He did not know how to react to that. And quite honestly, I mean, it's not something you can. I don't know how you could refute that. I don't think it's possible. Right. I mean, our Ben came in guns blazing. Which, by the way, there's a request. Speaking of guns blazing, there is a request in the chat right now, a super chat from Frank, requesting a quick Tennessee gun show, because they see that you're wearing them short.
Oh, like a Sam Cedar.
Yeah, you got
it. There's a super chat for you.
Super chat for me. Requesting a gun show from you. There you go, Frank. I hope you enjoy.
There you go. That's for Bender. $4.99 right there, boys.
Thanks.
All right, but well, I hope you enjoyed that, Frank, or whoever.
That was Frank, right?
But I just, the at the end there when he said the woof woof about the convenience store robberies, I was taken aback at that.
That was very straightforward. I mean, no beating around the bush there.
Yeah, no whistles, all bark.
Uh-huh.
Or actually, dog whistle is from the owner, so I guess instead of whistle, it would just be "Hey boy." But the one last point I wanted to ask about this whole Ben off, this Ben versus Ben, was that was at that was at a college in Iowa. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, so you know, okay, so I'm 43 and going into the mid-teens, especially in the 2016 election, I kept hearing, "Oh, demographics is destiny." That seems like, as always, that seems like a really wrong-headed take because there are obviously there are colleges full of
Yeah, but how
little
diverse?
Nazis.
Not how diverse do you think the Iowa demographic is? We're talking Iowa.
Tr-
Uh,
True,
I mean,
true.
obviously, it's certainly not not great to see, but also I didn't ask Ben, but how big is that school? I wonder. 3,000 people total, and he said that probably a quarter is were from elsewhere. So you're talking about what? About a little less than 2,000, maybe 2,000, around 2,000 students.
Okay.
I'm guessing that's the conservative base of the school. I
Right.
mean, again, it is Iowa. Yeah.
I thought it was like Iowa State or something, and that just made me I thought it was like University of Iowa or Iowa State,
No,
which
it
really
is. It is something like that. I don't know how big Iowa. I should look it up right now. Actually,
oh
let's
well, I
see.
mean both of those are both of those are Big Ten schools.
Iowa State. I don't know anything about colleges, to be honest. So I don't know anything like that.
I know
Iowa
you
State University. How many students? Let's see. 30,000
probably
students.
yeah
Thirty
yeah
thousand students. So I mean, yeah, over
not
30,000.
nothing
Closer to 31,000. So I mean, yeah,
yeah
a lot more of them
um
didn't attend the Ben Shapiro event.
right. But I will say, I mean, as kind of closing, I am nervous of the younger people. There are more right weenies, right
Mm,
leaning.
I don't think so.
Uh,
I don't
you
think
don't
so.
think so?
No.
Are you sure it's not just because you're in your Brooklyn bubble there, Matt? Because I mean, being here in Tennessee, now I told you this about being here in Tennessee. I see these good old boys that are 18, 19, 20 driving around with their F-350 quad cabs with Trump flags and "Don't tread on me." What's that snake? What do they call that? The Gadsden flag. I mean, I see a lot of it. It makes me nervous. Saw it up in Asheville a couple weekends ago for Record Store Day. I saw a lot of. Made me nervous, man. I'm just saying.
I mean, I've seen some weird takes about how Gen Z is more conservative than some think, but when it comes down to polls and surveys,
Hmm.
I mean, they're once again more left wing than the generation before them. As it continues, maybe the right wingers amongst them are really far right, but from the polling I've seen, it's following the trends of every generation gets more and more progressive.
Well, I hope so because we're gonna need it. I'm a late Gen Xer. I'm in the same category as Sam, even though many claim him to be a boomer. And I'll just
Sam is one of those older Gen Xers, I think. So that's why I
he's an
think.
he's an
Yeah,
early Xer. Yeah, I
yeah.
think being a Gen Xer, I think you had to be born 65, 66. I was born in 78. But I've been disappointed at my generation's progressive politics. I'm especially bothered with the most recent news about the basically the end of Roe. When I was in college, I was party to, just to be
Again,
frank.
not to give unnecessary, like unwarranted hope, but I
Uh
think
huh.
there is something to who leaked it and why. I don't care about the institution of SCOTUS. That's what that whole conversation about the leaks are and how.
I don't care about it either.
But I do think it's important to. I mean, I don't think "find out" is the right word because it's possible we won't find out. But I do think it's important to consider that who leaked it, whoever it is, will determine why they leaked it and what purpose they had for leaking it. Again, if it was a liberal, someone on the liberal side, they could have been doing it for public pressure to because they thought we should know that it was going to be struck down. If it's someone on the conservative side, though, I'm thinking they did it because I've seen some discussion about how, John Roberts, this is his court, and, he doesn't, he cares about his legacy, and he might be working over like Kavanaugh or someone like that. I think Kavanaugh would be the most obvious one, honestly, to try to get him to switch sides. Now, whether that's doable or possible, I don't really know. Probably not. But again, if they felt like they needed to leak it because they were worried about they weren't going to get their way, then that's why they leaked it. Because whatever happens now, if the decision is not exactly what it was in the leak, then the assumption is going to be that the decision was changed because of the reaction to the leak. Whether that's true or not, whether that even happens or not, remains to be seen, obviously. But I mean, that's the point. They wanted to force the decision to stay the same if it was on the conservative side.
Right. That's why I think it was a right wing, somebody from the right side or the right wing side, some Federalist goon that works there in the Supreme Court. I'll just say this, and I'll leave so other people can get on. But as a late Gen Xer, I've never lived in a world without abortion and family planning. And when I was 20 and then 21 and then 22, I was party to 3 abortions here in Tennessee. 2 with a longtime girlfriend, became my fiance, and then 1 with another young woman. And we had easy access to family planning in the city of Knoxville, close to campus. That will go away. And what my kind of point is I found out within the last couple of years that 2 of those women, they are now like right wingers, and one of them voted for Trump, and it broke my heart when I heard that, and because I just wanted to say, I was like, yeah, but you remember when, and this particular policy helped us get out of a bad situation, and so that makes me sad for my generation that we haven't fought, because we've never lived with the fear. If I was a 20-year-old woman or even a 20-year-old guy right now, I would be crapping my pants. And I appreciate you letting me talk. I hope the guy got his gun money. And I wanted to can I give a quick shout out to like somebody that maybe I'd like to see you have on that's like a funny dude.
Yeah, sure.
That does leftist. This dude, have you ever heard of like this R.M. Brown guy?
Yes. In fact, he was in the chat once or twice, I think. People reached out to me. I think he actually wanted me to do something with him or talk with him, or it was a while ago. And as you all know, one man band over here, and so things, especially if it happens during the show, they get lost. But yeah, are you endorsing doing something with R.M. Brown?
I'm giving my East Tennessee Southern rural reporter a seal of endorsement. He's got some funny stuff. He's like you. He's got some great critiques of these right wing yahoos, which is why we love you. We love you, and we appreciate all you. We appreciate all you do. So thank you, and good night, my friend.
Thank you, Zach. Always appreciate when you call in. Have a great night.
Go JP Mandel. Bye. See ya.
All right. Let's see. I got a clip I just grabbed that I saw going around. I could play that clip. Mr. Saxakeet with a super chat. Appreciate you, Binder. Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Saxakeet. I appreciate you for appreciating me. Over on the another call. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, this is Susan calling from Nashville.
Hey, Susan from Nashville. Oh, we got another Tennessee caller here.
Yep, I always like it when Zach calls in because I'm from that same area and sometimes I can pretty much tell where he's talking about. Also, he should probably be careful because a couple of weeks ago he mentioned living 5 doors down from a guy who owns a sign company, and I was like, that's so-and-so's dad. I know exactly where he lives.
Ooh. There you go. Wow, that's crazy.
Man, because it's small enough, there aren't that many people who own the sign company in that area. Okay, but what I wanted to talk about, I want to talk about something different, not Zach.
No, go ahead. What you said reminded me of actually when Kowalski, an episode of Scam Economy, when Kowalski called in. It was the dating app episode, and he told me how basically scammers really can't, dating app scammers can't get people like him because he knows everybody within like a 50-mile radius because it's about like 20 people.
He was like, I know all the people from that town.
Right. So yeah, that's what
it doesn't work when
of.
you know everyone.
Yeah. So what do we like to talk about?
So I wanted to call in because I guess I'm thinking I've been trying to call in for a couple of weeks and I'm thinking back to some of the stuff you have been talking about on your show for the past couple of weeks. In particular, I know that the Florida Don't Say Gay bill is more about restricting people's ability to talk about gay people and trans people in schools, but there are a lot of other people framing it from the direction of they don't, and they're saying what they really don't for some reason want people to teach sex ed at all in schools.
Right. Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard was saying you shouldn't be teaching this stuff until 18, and that it's something that should be taught in the home. Do you remember that?
Yeah, kids. I remember back when I was that age, there was no attraction to anyone. There was no people. It was just what is wrong with these people? Really, I mean.
Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to call in is I was homeschooled growing up from 3rd grade until I graduated high school. And so I know people we don't have to guess what would happen if if sex ed were not mandatory in school, because we have proof. And I knew 2 people at least who were not given the talk by their parents. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you think, these people are like, this is a conversation that should be happening in the home. But I mean, I guess they're either just not thinking about, or they're just purposely pretending that there aren't dysfunctional homes where that conversation just doesn't happen. And so what ends up happening is they just learn it from the internet. So what would you rather have? People, I'm not talking about these lawmakers' children, I'm just saying children, the children of our communities. Would you rather them having to learn this stuff from the internet, or from a teacher who can teach them in a way that's not going to traumatize them?
Well, the answer from them would probably not be what would be the obvious answer from us, honestly.
Yeah. Honestly.
I don't think they think about that at all. In fact, they don't even consider. I think they don't want their kids learning about it at all. They have a very backwards view of things. In terms of, they probably think that if their kids aren't taught about it, they won't know about it at all, and they just won't take part in it, which is the complete opposite of what actually happens.
Yeah, so I wonder how effective that strategy could possibly be, because I have been homeschooled. I'm originally from a suburb of New Orleans, and then we moved to the Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia area when I was 10. And so I've had access to two kind of distinct homeschool communities. The one in Louisiana was more full of wealthier people who did not want to send their kids to the local public schools because in New Orleans, the public schools there, at least at the time, were like 50th in the country, 50 out of 50. They were the worst in the entire country as far as schooling. So you had wealthy people trying to skip past that to homeschool their kids. And then so it wasn't as, and obviously there's the religious angle, but it wasn't as pronounced. Whereas in Tennessee, you have more people who, yes, there are some wealthier people, but I was seeing a lot more, I guess, income diversity, where it was mainly the religious folks who were trying to, I guess, isolate their kids.
Yeah.
And I have seen, like, there's some, I mean, I'm a weirdo, but there are some people who were attempting to raise their children in an extremely isolated scenario where they try to restrict them from, using the internet and stuff like that. So in my opinion, those people did not grow up to be as well adjusted as they could have been. But in general, and I'm wondering how the right wing, because I obviously I didn't turn out how my dad probably hoped, homeschooling us. Like, I'm not a wild character, but not that that's bad. I love wild characters, but just that, I'm, lefty, and my dad would not approve. But I don't know if the whole controlling what your kids know is a viable solution. I don't know if that works. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it definitely does not. I mean, a lot of this is not all obviously, but I think a lot of the problem is people don't view kids as being like human beings in a lot of aspects. Like they don't consider their child's feelings with their child. Like obviously you're the parent and you have say over their lives and make determinations, but you also, in making those determinations, should consider how it affects them on their own personal and emotional level and how they feel about things. Like, if you know they're gonna go out and be up to no good, that's one thing. But you can't, like, if you know they're gonna be with someone who's like gonna get them into trouble, that's one thing. But also, you can't just be like, that means you cannot go out and associate with anyone at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's.
It makes me wonder if these people remember being children themselves.
Yeah, like there's a way to, and I'm not saying I'm a perfect parent. My oldest is only 7, so we're not at the point where they're gonna go out. He's going out yet, but I mean, I think we're me and their mom have a good handle on like how to take into consideration how they feel and things like that when determining things. Like they want to eat candy. They come to us wanting to eat candy, and it's like, no, you didn't have dinner yet. If you eat all your dinner, though, you can have, like a piece of chocolate or something. It's like not like we're like some horrible breaking down. Like this seems like very basic. Like consider that this is something they want, and think about what's a good way where they still, eat what they need to and are healthy. And they could get a little reward to make them feel good too, because again, they have feelings. They're people.
Right. That's what I appreciated. I think it was Sam, one of the MR things. He was saying that of course you can teach children like age appropriate sex ed even as young as 6. Like they're not going to melt away like in the Wizard of Oz or something. It's I feel like it's the alternative, just being kind of in the dark, is scarier for children. Just
Right.
having that knowledge and obviously it protects people. I mean, if they don't know, like predators use that kind of lack of knowledge to control people,
Right.
And yeah, it's it's hard for me to wrap my mind around why you would want to shelter your kids from basic information. Like, and
Right.
like I've worked with some weirdly conservative people, and I just said the word vagina once, and just not like in a crude way. I just said the word, and one of my coworkers was a little bit surprised and shocked, and I was like, that's like being embarrassed by the word elbow. It is the medical term for the part of the body.
Right. It's I don't see why someone would get upset over that. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it just comes down to the fact that they just don't view them as people. And, on the homeschool thing, I think that does affect people in a I mean, my example of homeschool, my most obvious experience with it is my buddy Michael Brooks. He was homeschooled.
Yeah.
And I can say, and Sam also realized he Michael, and maybe people didn't know because they got, he blew up as he really came into his own, so he was already there. But I can tell you from when I first met Michael that he had to work really hard to sort of make up for what I think the homeschool stuff. And his parents were not some sort of they just homeschooled him. Like, it wasn't like there was some sort of, conservative bend there. In fact, his mom is very liberal.
Were they like part of the hippie?
I think that's
the other group.
Yeah,
I think the hippie group.
Yeah, I think that was it. And
I've met some of those too.
And like, obviously they did a great job in terms of, like, Michael is very smart. I would say he's probably hands down the smartest person I ever met. But when it came to, like, social stuff, he was very awkward for a while, and he needed to definitely, I saw him, I could see him working on it. I remember I used to, like, needle him like I usually would, like, pull his leg a little bit, because he was, like, way more into, like, LinkedIn networking than anyone I ever met. And he was like, he found that to be really important. And I think that's because, like, he felt like he needed to do that, because maybe he, it was just, I mean, it worked out for him in the end. Maybe he's a great example, but I think the example was just, like, of how great it worked out for him is just a testament to how hard he worked than anything having to do with homeschooling. I think, I think he had to make up for a lot.
How old was he when you guys first met him?
He was all in 2012, so he was already I mean, he was he was late 20s. I mean, this was
nice. Okay, so there's still hope for me.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Do you feel that way? Like you feel like you have like in certain settings you need some catch up, like you need to
I'm currently a graduate student in physics, so I'm surrounded by the most awkward people you've ever met. And I look around at these people and I'm like, you know what? I'm doing okay. Because they're just, this is awkward. I don't know. I understand and I've seen as well, through not just me but just examples of other folks, that there are a lot of gaps in knowledge that are sometimes not addressed in a full I guess in a full school curriculum. I feel like that it gives you a better broad stuff. Like, some of the things that I've noticed is that I'll have a lot of gaps in, like, history or something like that, because that didn't really interest me when I was younger. So, and my husband is really into history, so I'll be watching something with him and I'll ask him really basic history questions, and he'll be like, Susan, why? But yeah, and socially, obviously, I feel like I used to be extremely shy and awkward. Like, I'm awkward now, but I used to be like, I was helpless, it seemed like. But yeah, it does take some time as well. And this isn't really what I was calling in to talk about, but there are a lot of different ways to homeschool. I don't know if Michael Brooks did a lot of like dual enrollment with universities and stuff like that. So he could take
he did go to like he went to college. Like, he wasn't home.
Well,
like, yeah.
Well, I mean, like, while you're in high school. So, like, I took
I don't know. Yeah,
I
maybe.
I don't know. I took like 40 credit hours before I graduated or something like that. It was
Jeez.
dumb.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think, obviously, I could also say that I've seen some benefits from it, obviously, but I think there is I think, and I'm preaching to the choir here, obviously, but there's definitely some like social experiences that get missed out on that you could, that definitely
Yeah.
affects people later in life.
Yep. Well, my main point that I was trying to make is that I don't know how successful the right wing push to control students' brains is really going to work, especially with the internet. The internet is really like how I feel like I was pushed over to the left, and how a lot of people in my life were as well, and it's impossible to control people that it's not possible anymore to do that. And maybe I know that Zach has been calling in as being a little bit melancholy about the state of the youth's TM, but I don't know. I have some hope. I think that the nature of children and the desire to become themselves is going to win out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a, I've said this, and I do believe it. I think, it's getting to be where it is right now because what we're seeing is the loudest among them realize where this is all headed, and this is their last chance. This is their last chance to really get through this stuff. I mean, obviously, they're getting successful, and we'll have to deal with it for many generations to come. But I mean, this is their, it sucks that we probably won't get to see a number of things that we hope for. But yeah, I mean, I think they're losing in the end.
Yep, I think so too. All right, that's all I got to talk about right now, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for taking my call.
All right, take care, Susan. Always a pleasure when you call in.
Yep, bye.
Bye. All right, folks. Let's see. Oh, let me play this clip. I've seen this go around, so I don't know if it's any good, but let's take a watch together. Let me pull up the picture-in-picture screen. Let's see. Oh, look at this Mario thing that was on. I was looking at earlier today. Where is my thing here? Where is it? Hold on. Oh. Dave, call in 1 second. Let me just play this clip, and then I'll take your call, I promise. Oh, I put it in the wrong folder. Here it is. Wait, no, that's not the folder. There it is. All right, let's do this, because I love this shit. It's been too long since I did a clip like this, so let's do it. All right, so I see this clip going around just now. I got to take a watch. Whenever you got a Mike Huckabee commercial, like a really crappy Mike Huckabee, between Fox News shows, you got the Fox News border. You know exactly what type of commercials I'm talking about. We're talking about a real winner of an ad here. Let's take a listen. I've not watched this. It just was going viral now. Let's see. I'm about to be just as shocked or appalled or both as all of you. Let's see it.
Hi, this is Mike Huckabee. Isn't it amazing how so much that President Trump said still rings true? But schools and the media don't want our kids to hear anything positive. And that's why my team created the Kids Guide to President Trump. It'll teach your kids all about President Trump's accomplishments and his vision for America. And I want you to have it for free.
Is this an old ad? He's acting like Trump is in office. Is this an old ad? Well, anyway, I don't think it's an old ad because look, Mike Huckabee's got the beard. I don't think he was beard Mike Huckabee until recently. Mike Huckabeard. Well, it's interesting to see that Mike Huckabee is grooming children. Right? That's what this is, right? What is their new definition? I've seen it so many times now. Let me pull it up once again. Hold on. This is the one that's been going around. This is their definition of grooming now, right? They've redefined grooming. And this is their version of, here it is, the deliberate act of bringing a child into a sexual, political, or racial ideology, practice, cult, or lifestyle without the knowledge or consent of his or her parents. So there you go. If this is being marketed towards children, he's grooming them, right?
The media don't want our kids to hear anything positive. And that's why my team created the Kids Guide to President Trump.
All right.
It'll teach your kids all about President Trump's accomplishments.
Oh, he's selling
and his
it to
vision for America. And I want you to have it for free.
Okay, it's good to brainwash your kids, I guess, as long as the parents are a part of it. All right, okay. So, Mike Huckabee, unless this makes its way into a library or something, I guess Mike Huckabee's not technically, according to their definition, grooming your kids, but they are brainwashing them. All right, good distinction to make. All right, Dave from Jamaica, you want to call in, my friend? And that'll probably be the last call I take for tonight. We're now, I think, about an hour and 10 into the second half after my call with you. Or anyone else wants to call in, I'll probably bring us to a usual, normal length second half of the show. Let's see. Here we go. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, it's Dave from Jamaica, I think.
Dave from Jamaica. Yes. I always ask just to make sure, because I don't want to be presumptuous. Because one or two times I did, and it wasn't the person who showed up. They were using someone else's Skype, so I just got to be careful. Hey,
you
Dave.
don't know. It could have random. It's a me, Mario, and then it's all downhill.
Yeah. Hey, I was looking. There was some Reddit post on Mario, and you know how I am. I get caught up in this shit. What's up, Dave from Jamaica? What would you like to talk about?
Well, I know it's doomed, but I'm not going to doom people out. I think we've got quite a bit enough of that throughout the couple of days, especially with the decision. But I guess I do agree with you. It is a minoritarian thing with these conservatives, but the tricky bit is I think the long game plan is, at least they have the Supreme Court, and we see them making more naked plays to control education and whatnot. I think they're trying to build back up the ranks, basically. That's the play. Since they don't have enough, they're trying. In other words, they're accusing us of grooming, but the real thing, they want to groom kids to be conservatives. So I think they're trying to replenish the ranks. I think that's the long game. Game. And they may or may not be able to do it because, it's going to be a while before the Supreme Court changes. And it would be, especially with how feckless Democrats are, it's going to be a while before they get a real challenge. And unfortunately, while I do support labor movements and so on and so forth, it's still a little bit too anarchic. In other words, it's too individual-based and not systems-based because we don't have the power to set up the systems. So I do have a generally more pessimistic view because I can see how they can rebuild their base because that's the long-term plan.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a little bit more pessimistic on it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's all projection from them. But listen, I'm not saying they're not gonna be successful, but I just think we're clearly going to deal with the ramifications of what they've already done and have been doing. My when I give a little bit more of an optimistic view, I'm simply saying like this is all happening because things aren't on their side the way just reality is going. This doesn't mean things are going to be hunky-dory going forward. It just means, like, we have to fight back harder than ever because they're going to get louder and more, raucous, I guess.
I think, well, I guess from listening to various people talk about it and so on, I do get a general sense of despair from a lot of leftists in media, because I think the despair more comes from what do they do, right? And then, and as you said, you fight hard, you do what you do, right? And we all are going to do that. But I guess what people want are a light at the end of the tunnel. But since we're more honest, we can't promise quote unquote light, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's what's kind of getting people down at the moment. Because as you said, what we're going to do, vote harder. Right? So, because you remember 2008 when they had this filibuster proof majority and they didn't do much with it, right? There was always something. It was Lieberman or it was this guy. And I personally think if there's a way we could swap out most of the Democratic leadership instantly, even if they're not ideologically aligned with us, there's something about, I mean, and I see this in the UK as well, something about this particular kind of liberal leadership out there is very feckless. It is amazingly feckless. It's like, it's to the point where people would think they're losing on purpose, but they're just that bad.
We're dealing with a combination of right-wing fascism and absolute, I don't even know how to explain how incapable and unable to address the moment the Democrats are. Like, that's exactly what it's a two-pronged issue here. People are going to say, "Oh, you're blaming No. If you can't see the how both Democrats and Republicans in very different ways are causing the current situation, I don't know what to tell you. Is it Republicans' fault? Yes. No one is saying it's not. And if they are, obviously they're wrong. Are Democrats rolling over and not, stepping up to the plate for the moment they are finding themselves in? Absolutely. It doesn't have to be this way, or at the very least, it doesn't have to be this bad. Like,
that's what I found unique about them. Like, I've seen other neoliberal parties out there outside the UK and the US, and they at least have some will to power. I mean, these guys don't even have that. It's a very bizarre, weird, self-interested, but tactically goofy. It's if it wasn't so terrifying, it's fascinating. I've never seen something like this. It's kind of
right.
I've never seen a party so bad just doing basic politics. They don't want. It's almost like, as I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist and say they don't want power and this is all a big scam. They're just amazingly bad at politics.
Yeah, it seems like so simple to just even stand up. I'm not saying it's simple to win, but they're just not even like, I'm actually speechless in trying to find the words to properly describe what they what the deal is here. Like, it's horrible. It's horrible.
It's horrible. It's horrible. But I guess on to a more, well, I'm trying to find a brighter thing, is that I think definitely our generation, since we're in the age for like political running and stuff. We're going to have to try primary these guys best we can. That's kind of one of the options.
Right.
Also work
Yep.
locally, try to build up class consciousness, but
Right.
that's all we can do for now.
It's hard though, unfortunately, because like, big picture, Dems are weak, but in their primaries, you know, they got there, and that's when they become brutal. That's when they become like political machines, like absolutely like political like death squads. They completely annihilate any primary challenger, and then when it comes time for the general, it's like, oh, ooh, look at us, moderates who are reaching across the aisle to work with them. Give me a break. Give me a break. Let's see. You become the tyrants you become when you're facing a primary challenge from your left, when you're in a general election against the right.
It just don't. I was a child when Reagan was in office. Like, I was born in 1983. Was Reagan beating the Dems that much of a psychic trauma that this generation of boomers and Gen Xers are unable to what do you call it now, recover from it? Did it cause that much psychic trauma that they're always constantly triangulating their ways to losses?
Yeah.
I think I think they need their heads shrunk, to be honest, because something's going on here.
Yeah, it is baffling. It is baffling. But I mean, yeah, I know there's people who believe all sorts of, maybe it's true for some of them, but it's not true for all of them. Someone said, controlled opposition in the chat, and in some aspects, I would, there's definitely some establishment Dems who I would feel no surprise there, but not all of them. Some of them are just completely that bad at doing anything. Like, it's not even, you can't even give them that credit.
What's the old saying?
You can't even
Don't mistake incompetence for maliciousness, or something like that.
Yes, absolutely incompetent. I think that's the word I was looking for, but I didn't want to use it because I don't even think it describes it perfectly. But I guess until I could find a more fitting word, I think incompetent is what I'll go with in general.
Yeah, I don't buy into the theory of controlled opposition in that sense, because it requires a level of strategy I've never seen them capable of. That's too complicated for the most part. But you are right. They somehow become very tactical when it comes to primaries. All of a sudden, they know how to play all the dirty tricks and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I don't know. As I say, I think I think my blame is right on the money. It's the Reagan era. Something happened to their brains during that Reagan era where they're afraid of conservatives. Like, they give them far too much power. Yeah. And the thing is, and I think I see people generally do this too, which kind of annoys me. The right ain't all that bright either. They're not. Yes, they're coordinated, but because it's easy to coordinate around easy lies and bullshit stuff, and it's basically the same stuff they've been doing since God knows how long. It's just constantly rehashed, and they don't get along that well, right? Look what happened to Mathers and Hawthorne when he kind of stepped out of line, right? So they do have their infighting. Right. It's just the conservatives benefit off of a system.
Yeah.
This is not like they're masterminds of, speaking to people. They're more or less, there's a track they run, and since the track is built to support them, that's why it seems like they're way more organized. But again, I guess I'm not going to be too hard on people, because as I said, in times we're in now, people are kind of down, and maybe they're not looking at it from the correct lens. So
yeah,
I think give it a few days and people kind of wrap their heads around the new situation. Because, all right, that reminds me, I come from a country where abortion has been basically illegal since forever, right? So, while I do think American culture is different when it comes to abortion, so where I am, it's not that much of an issue because we have our own what you call it now, bad cultural stuff where people are not viewed as, being a man or being a woman unless you sire offspring. And for abortion here, and of course the same rules apply. It's not really a ban on abortion. If you have the money, you can get it, but it's different cultural. But I do. What can people do to help you guys out? Like, is it stock up on pills and stuff?
No, I mean,
information.
what's gonna happen? Well, I don't want to speculate. First of all, I don't know. Like you mentioned, and it's not like the situation was better in Jamaica. So maybe someone from Jamaica shouldn't be too worried about us on this front. But no,
here's the thing.
I appreciate the sentiment, though. But no, what were we gonna say?
No, the thing is, remember when America sneezes, everybody catches a cold.
Right.
So if the right wing feels jazzed up, they always seem to trickle down to the other right wingers around the world, and they'll try whatever shit.
I don't know if this is one of those issues that has play all over the world, though. This is a distinct religious right thing that I don't think is mirrored really anywhere else in the world. Maybe South America, but the countries that have abortion restrictions are, they're obvious. In recent years, they've been heading
in the other direction.
Yeah. So I don't know if they'll be going backward. I mean, we did, I guess, but I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. This is what's gonna happen if this is true and this is the final decision. You probably won't see much change for blue states. This isn't to say woo blue. No. This is factual. Every red state will treat it differently. There'll be ones that, like Texas, are getting ready to just outright ban abortion. Others might do the same. Others might have other restrictions and allow some types of abortion. Remains to be seen.
Do you think this will cause people to move out of those states if they can?
I mean, maybe some people. I don't think most people have the ability to do that, really, for this issue. I mean, really, any issue, honestly. This is a life-changing. Would be a life-changing decision. The real problem would be if it moves beyond that. I mean, Republicans probably will at least look into trying to make abortion outright illegal, like enshrine that in federal law.
I think that's the next step, honestly.
And that would be obviously a whole different scenario where you couldn't move anywhere. There couldn't be programs to send people anywhere. I think that would be the, I'm not one of the people who's like, that's the end of the American project. Oh, that'll split up the states. Civil war, as like some of our beanie wearing friends like to always go to. But I think that we would see reactions that I think we wouldn't have seen before in terms of like mass movements that are sustained and not just like hang out in front of this building for a day or two and then disperse. I
think that's the logical conclusion of where they're going, right? Because since this is basically kind of a Christian kind of fascist type thing going on, first they ban Roe versus Wade. The next logical step they probably are going to go after gay marriage again, right?
They're saying it's different, but no, I think they would go after that again. What this is really, for people to understand what this is really, and this is probably the way to speak to maybe some of those reactionary or right-leaning, well, not speak to reactionaries, but right-leaning people who aren't anti-abortion. This is an attack on privacy rights. This is the government saying you can or can't do something with your body. This is, I mean, in essence, this is saying that government controls you. Your body. Government tells you what you can and can't do. Like, that's not what happened. Like, Roe v. Wade just let people decide what it didn't enforce. Anyone who did not want to get an abortion did not have to get an abortion. This does the opposite. This is forcing people who want to make a choice about their body. It's forcing them to not have the ability to make that choice. And
basically making pregnancy to term mandatory, basically, for those states.
Yes,
right?
yes. And you can argue that this can easily extend to a number of things. Anyone who said that, government can't force vaccines or something like that on everybody, vaccines aren't forced. Are there things you can't do without getting a vaccine? Sure, but you have the option to not do those things. Who's to say that the government can't say that you have to have a medical procedure? Like, who's to say? Like, it's an erosion of privacy rights.
Well, as you know, they don't really care about this stuff, right? So, yeah, I guess from my experience with other right wingers, they're just going to use this kind of like a victory to a stepping stone for whatever they're going to reach for next. But in my mind, it's probably gay rights are next. And as you said, they're probably going for a nationwide
contraception. Contraception is probably one of them too.
Right. Because if they truly believe that, abortion is murder and whatever with contraceptives as well, right? Then they won't be satisfied with just red states, because as you know, similar to what you're saying when it came to conservatives on Twitter or Rumble versus Rumble, they need a bad guy, right? So if they have nobody to enforce their will on, right, then they lose the thrill, unfortunately. That's how their brain works.
Right.
So it's pretty bad, but I hope.
Knocking on wood there, right?
Yeah, sorry. I hope that since the dynamics, there's a lot of white feminists who really love their rights and so on and so forth when it comes to this particular issue. I think maybe they'll probably be far more active than we've seen them before. So that would help the situation.
Yeah.
So I do think conservatives have overreached in that case, because I do see a lot of women would get really pissed off at this. Because I remember in Mexico a few years ago, they did something similar where they were restricting abortion rights, and there were riots and shit was burning down, and they rolled that shit back. So
yeah,
I think something similar needs to happen in this case. Not that I'm encouraging wink, wink, nod, nod, burning of property or anything like that, but I think you kind of have to scare these guys into
mass protest movement, direct action, things that are, civil disobedience. No one's calling for, on this show, no one's calling for any sort of violent, calling for civil disobedience in the way we've seen during the civil rights movement, in the way we saw in 2020, with the movement for for Black Lives Matter. I mean, this is.
I do think if I had a criticism, I do think at least with these protest movements, they have to be more disruptive, because like if everybody marches for a long period and then goes home, there has to be some pressure valve, right?
Yeah,
there has to be some, and I do think the protest movement needs to evolve, right? It can't just be we show up for a couple weeks or months and then go back home.
Yeah, I think
they have to pay a financial price.
I think a sustained movement on the ground, along with, financial consequences for. I mean, obviously, politicians need to lose who aren't doing their duty. I mean, obviously, this is all easier said than done. You know what I mean? But yeah. We're not calling for anything for, obviously but basic civil disobedience that we've seen throughout the country over many years in response to things like this that have happened.
Mm-hmm. As I said, I understand what you're saying, man. I'm just saying that for them to be effective, it has to cost them. It has to cost the folks money.
Yeah,
You know what
there's
I
of
mean?
course, of
It has to
course.
be right. And that's my only critique of it, because like when looking back on the BLM process, right, and then looking at what we got, right, police got funded more. That's a bit disappointing, and then the movement got a little commodified, so on and so forth. And this is not me critiquing the protesters. It's just observation that we have to find a way to make these things disruptive, so it can't be co-opted. I
Right.
don't know how you do it, but that's that kind of thing that kind of helps these movements have teeth. And that's why on the bright side we saw the labor action, the successful unionization of that one Amazon warehouse, Starbucks, and so on. So there are good signs, and when it comes to labor, that is the lever you can pull. So trying to combine labor movements with the kind of fight, the anti-abortion stuff and so on, might be the key to help kind of win these battles in the long run.
All right.
Kind of have to hit them in the wallet. But I yacked on enough, and you seem to be getting tired, man.
No, it was good conversation. Thanks for the call, Dave.
No problem. You have a good day. All
You
right.
too. Take care. Yeah, it's been a long 24 hours. I guess maybe I'm showing that I'm getting a little bit tired. I'm feeling it. So I think we'll call it a night. It was a great show. Thank you to the guest on the first half, and thank you to all the callers who called in. Oh, let me shout out these patrons who jumped in. Cameron, I think I'm out of it for tonight. What are you doing calling in so late? I don't know if I could live up to your call today. Calling on Thursday, okay, buddy? I wouldn't, I don't want to ruin it. I don't think I could be at that level right now. Philbo Schwaggins with the resubscription on Amazon Prime, Twitch Prime, with a doomed comment. Serious Business with a resubscription on Prime. Corn Pop for Prez with a resubscription. Shayna 420 with a subscription. Thank you so much. And over on Patreon, I think Will H just joined. Patreon.com/MattBinder. Thank you so much. And did I get all the super chats? I did. Cool. All right, folks. I will see you on Thursday if you tune into Scam Economy. And if you're not tuning into Scam Economy, I got all stuttery there. I will see you all next time on Doomed.